Thanks for tuning in to the Marvel Movie Minute.
Want to skip those pesky ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a weekly podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 5 minutes at a time. In this, our 9th season, we are looking at Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I'm Pete Wright.
I'm Kyle Olson.
I'm Fox Matthew.
And today we're talking about minutes 61 through 65, which begins with obtuse questions and ends with impossibility. Here we are. This is, I mean, we all know what we're getting.
Yeah, we're back in New Jersey.
When we last had, we're in Jersey, and we're in the basement. Well, we're not in the basement yet. Now we're cruising through memory lane, and Natasha and Steve are hanging out in a world that I think is still black and white. And they start at the Wall of Heroes, and we've got Natasha saying, "Oh, there's Stark's father." Howard, Steve knows him.
Fondue.
And it opens with the obtuse question, but I don't know if it's an obtuse question. You tell me, don't you think Natasha, given her role in the universe of S.H.I.E.L.D., might know who Peggy Carter is by sight?
Kids today, they just don't care about history.
I don't know. I mean,
that's what I'm
it's
wondering.
an interesting moment because would that have been relevant to her? I mean, it's just another of many probably directors and bureaucrats that have been through S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, she has only been with S.H.I.E.L.D. for a couple of years at this point. I mean, we don't know exactly how long, but I think it's somewhere in the early 2000s or something. She's supposed to have defected. So I don't know how much she would actually have dedicated to learning about like the history of World War II from the organization that she's in.
You think about how many TV shows do we have about people who get recruited by the FBI, you know, and they convert and become sort of pseudo FBI agents. Would they all recognize a picture of J. Edgar Hoover? I don't know if I would, and I think of myself as a pretty big Cold War historian.
Peggy is, well, you know what? That is actually probably great perspective because I just feel like she knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, right? And it just seems to me that given the fact that Peggy is still alive at this point, that maybe there would have been a connection. I am clearly overthinking this, and
I caught on that too, and I was so is she? Would she really not know?
I think there's two factors here. One is she might have met Peggy Carter 40 or 50 years later, and so
true.
Would she recognize her as a young person?
And B, it is entirely possible that an organization like S.H.I.E.L.D., like every other human-made organization out there, does a pretty bad job of acknowledging the women who were an important part of its founding 50 years ago.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that it's Peggy's picture on the Wall of Heroes right next to Howard Stark.
Honestly, the weirdest picture on that wall is Tommy Lee Jones, the general, who didn't really have that much to do with the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I don't think he was involved in S.H.I.E.L.D. at all. I think he was gone by the time the OSS transitioned to S.H.I.E.L.D., but it was like, that's the sequelitis. That's like the, hey, remember? Remember this?
It's sequelitis, but not even fan service.
No, not really.
Right? Like, it's not, who cares? Who got, oh my God, that's Tommy Lee Jones.
I mean,
nobody cares.
One other thing to remember is this is a Wall of Heroes in a facility that's clearly been like mothballed. You know, this has been closed down for 20 years or whatever it is. So,
or more. Yeah.
It's just one more thing of this may not represent.
Right. And maybe it was put up there. It was that picture was hanging there back when he was an active person on the base. Like, we don't.
It could have been that they shut the base down officially in the 50s or whatever. And it's still like you just we're making that transition. Because, I mean, it is S.H.I.E.L.D. on the wall. It's not OSS. So we know it's approximately when this isn't.
Something happened. Yeah. We then move to Steve loving a breeze. And he finds the hidden elevator behind the bookcase. Would you get on this elevator? This is an elevator of horrors. Who knows how long since this elevator has been maintained? They sure do lean in on the creaky wire sound effects. I loved it.
I mean,
this is
I
the
think if
elevator
I'm
from
Steve,
hell.
I'm kind of thinking I've had my bad elevator experience for this week. You know, like
That's a good point.
But it's
That lightning doesn't strike twice in the
we're
same
also,
place
you know,
kind of an experience.
the story is taking place in 2014, but like now we've gone back and Steve's had a flashback to the 40s, and now we've seen S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 50s, but then when we have the standard trope of the bookcase sliding away, and this is a 70s elevator, so we're moving forward in time. It's interesting sort of backwards forwards thing we get as they get into the basement.
Right.
And they go into the basement and find, speaking of traveling through time, a USB port, which is awesome. And it just so happens to be the USB port for the thumb drive. All of this is great. This is the Cold War era server room, and just full of reel-to-reel mainframes. I love it. I think it's very cool. And we now understand that Natasha was introduced by someone to War Games. War Games is canon in the MCU.
It's a great movie.
That's delightful because that opens up an entire world of like Matthew Broderick is canon in the MCU.
And I tend to think of that movie as somewhat of a cult classic. Like, I think a lot of you of our generations know it, but I don't think that someone would be like, oh, hey, you want to understand the early 80s, here's a movie to watch. So the fact that Steve Rogers has also seen it tells me that someone who was introducing him to things, you know, I have some hope that Last Starfighter probably got onto that list. You know, like there's some he has been Back to the Future.
And probably, let's say, I mean, Breakfast Club. I think now that Matthew Broderick is in it, the floodgates are open.
Did Steve Rogers watch Matthew Broderick having an experience he literally lived through in Biloxi Blues?
Oh,
the mind is just all
wow.
You know,
this is freaking fireworks, you guys. This is incredible.
The podcast.
Okay, so shall we play a game? I saw it. Then we get. This is why we're here. We're kind of moving straight in here, so Kyle can start talking about Arnim Zola.
Well, just as you're talking, moving through the Univac, you know, the giant things, and then have everything covered in dust, except that someone has then attached a brand new modern USB port to it, and you can see the dust has been cleared away. Like someone has been down here. And so this isn't just even when they did the little scanny thing on the keypad to get in. Someone has been here and recently. So we're not doing this whole like, oh, this is something, an artifact. This is a tomb that they've uncovered. It is, but I mean, like,
this has been maintained.
Yes, someone else has been coming here on a regular basis and, you know, wiring up new technology to hold. So then when the big reveal comes,
I have a question about Herr Zola, and I don't know if I should ask it now to help frame what you're going to talk about, or if I should wait till the end.
Oh yeah, say if you got it on deck, let it fly.
So one of the thoughts that I had the first time I saw this movie, and then I went back and watched the original, and I still have this thought every time I watch it. I think this version of Zola is fascinating and great and chewing scenery and just villainy, McVillainy, and it's wonderful. It doesn't, for me, match the character we saw at the end of the first movie, where we see Zola basically kind of trying to get away from Red Skull and thinking Red Skull and Hydra are kind of nuts, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with them. And if I remember, he kind of like sort of like turns his back on him or tries to get away from him. So I'd be curious, as you're telling us more about Zola, how does that match up with this one, who is clearly 10 toes down for Hydra? Yeah,
this is a sort of a standard Marvel problem, is they want to get to the thing that people know so much that they skip over all the stuff that went into the character to get there. I mean, I think of Psylocke from the later X-Men films. It's, you know, Olivia Munn shows up with a psychic katana and slices a robot in half. You're like, this is awesome. I was like, Betsy Braddock was a meek British girl who had telepathy and was always in trouble because like she was way out weight classed. And it's like, that's the same, but you don't get so there's always this hunger to get like right to the thing. So yeah, I feel like there's a whole missing chapter in there. And then maybe if Agent Carter had been allowed to continue on as a series, we might have seen some of that. But it does seem like a big swing. And I guess you could do it as the shorthand of like, well, when your head goes into a computer, then you lose your humanity, like the standard trope.
Yeah. Okay.
But it does seem like a wasted opportunity to have that, like, I came around to their way of thinking even.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one who thought there was a discrepancy there, but okay.
Yeah, you're not.
No. Yeah, sure. But he gets to deliver this big villain speech. So.
With that being said, let's now discuss the awesome character of Zola Mark II.
That's right. So Arnim Zola, as he mentions, is Swiss, not German. He's very big, important to him. But that being said, he is a full-on Nazi. His first appearance was in Captain America and the Falcon number 208 from April of 1977, created by the King, Jack Kirby, who is both writing and drawing the issue at the same time. That is also an issue where Captain America fights a monster who has not made the leap to the cinematic universe, the Man-Fish. So, not every Marvel character or villain gets, to have their own solo Morbius-style fan burst. Man-Fish, sadly, will stay on the comics. But Arnim Zola essentially is, I guess, Dr. Frankenstein is the closest thing. His whole thing was more genetics than they have here, which is much more computer. But he did also do androids, so it's, I guess, that kind of that part in between. His big piece of tech he came up with was a way to essentially download someone's personality and then upload it onto something else. So he's done this with Red Skull a bunch of times. And then when he was being pursued by a bunch of heroes, he did it to himself so that he could be in a much more superior body than his little tiny human one. So there wasn't this whole like illness thing. It was more like, they're at the door with the pitchforks. I need to do something, and put himself into it. And so what he decided to do is redesign the body. So he made it like a giant 6-foot frame and put the brain inside the chest, so it would be more protected.
Well, that's the most protected
Yeah,
part.
exactly.
It's got the with a headshot. That's pretty upsetting.
Right. And then, put a little sensor on top, the 360, so he could always be getting data, and then had a screen that would project his face onto it. So that is the image you see most of the time if you Google Zola, is that. So he's one of those persistent pests that every time they destroy the body, he just uploads himself into another one. So he's always body hopping and showing up, and also making other people body hop. He created a clone Captain America and put Red Skull's brain into it. It's a whole thing. But he is the perpetual mad scientist that always is serving Hydra's interest. I believe he even cloned Hitler's brain at one point and put it into a guy who became what's known as the hate monger. So, we were playing with some potent stuff
on the
back
nose.
in there.
Yeah. I did not know much about Arnim Zola, and apart from the runs that I have read, I did not know, for example, about the horrific Dimension Z run with some artwork that is just brutal. Of Arnim Zola still screens in the chest, erupting from flesh in real people somehow. It gets pretty bonkers. Really crazy interpretations of this character. Do you find that through these runs you become a Zola sympathizer? Is he ever someone to count on as he really had a rough time? We're gonna
no, he's
as long as we understand him.
There's a couple of you have your Lokis, your people I kind of see where he's coming from, and sort of these guys who are the troubled, the Punisher or whatever too. They're get what they're coming from, but then there is a place, especially in these things, for just full on villains, and he is a full on villain. I just like him. I mean, even they did more sympathetic stuff with Kang, but Kang for a long time was just oh man, this guy again. It was this perennial evil of oh crap, this just force of nature is going to show up. So it's not about nuance. It's not about trying to understand them or talk them down. It's literally I'm going to throw my shield at this guy as hard as I can because I want to knock him the hell out.
And I do think it's worth mentioning that this is one of those we are taking something into S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra that 100% happened in the real world. There were a number of Nazi scientists, primarily like rocket scientists, but also some others who we just said, you know what, don't worry about it because you can help us. One of the main people who was a key part of our early space program was a guy named Werner von Braun, who
the rockets go up. I don't know where they come.
That's not my department. Since Werner, I'm going to quote that exact thing by the Tom Lehrer song, because he also was the one who designed the V1 and V2 rockets, which were basically like the first rocket attacks on civilian targets in warfare. But the Americans were like, well, yeah, but you can help us beat the Russians and get someone in space. So this idea, if someone is like, wow, no American group would hire someone like Zola to work for them. Absolutely, yes, they would. And, they did. And we went to space for it. So,
they sort of do an alternate history of that in For All Mankind, where they have Werner von Braun as sort of a hero, and then people then find out what he did. So you could sort of see the fall from grace, as opposed to how we experienced that time, which is, oh, we did what? And from what I can tell, Jack took inspiration from Emile Zola, who was a French novelist and journalist. I think he just liked that name and did a play off it. But I always find it interesting because I think of Zola all the time, because on my way to work, I drive by Emile Zola Drive all the time. Every time I see it, I'm like, street. So there's an Emile Zola Drive, not Arnim Zola, but close enough that it makes
what is the adjacency relationship to MODOK? Because it feels like this was of an era where we're just putting faces in the middle of bodies of things.
Well, he was a mechanism designed only for killing. So shout out to the Marvel fanboys. Of course. That was nice. Another one who wanted to experiment on himself. So yes, we were very much in the Silver Age mad scientist. I think he was much more like a Nick Fury, that sort of came from. But yeah, big head, giant arms. Yeah, it was the same kind of thing of making this was a time when, as opposed to now, we have, even in, as we're recording this, the Daredevil season 2 finale shows up, and most people are just still wearing black leather. Like we're back to that. I liked in this period when it was like, okay, when you see the silhouette of MODOK, you know it's MODOK. And when you see the silhouette of Zola, you know it's Zola, as opposed to like, yes, that is a guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have another question about Mr. Zola.
Okay.
Because and I don't know if this is one we should talk about this week or next week, because obviously it is my question is deeply affected by what Zola knows is going to happen in a few minutes that we get revealed next week. But during this speech, Zola is like, you know what? Bond villains don't go anywhere near far enough in stupidly telling Bond their plan. I remember watching this and going, there's no way this is true. Zola is just screwing with them, because why in the world would you give Cap all the information he needs to stop your big secret plan? Now, we're going to later find out, sorry, spoilers for a movie that's however many years old, that Zola expects that all of them, including himself, is going to die. And so maybe he has this ego need. But again, that's not something that's ever been established by the character. Like, wouldn't you rather just completely lie to Cap at this point and get him to think like, yeah, Nick Fury has always been our leader, or like all those shit. Convince him Natasha has been working with them. Like, why go Bond villain here?
I don't think my read on it is he's not lying. He's not lying because he's unafraid. I don't think he believes
I know he's not lying.
Die.
The question is why would he tell the truth?
Yeah. But I think you said it, right? He has I don't even know if it's ego, but it is unafraid of what's happening next, because he just everything is happening for the reason. He is stalling because he knows there's a missile inbound, and but he also is driven by the pieces that he still feels like he's in control, or he has been in control of, right? But it does lead to an adjacent question, which is, how autonomous is Arnim Zola now, right? Because Natasha had to turn him on, right? She had to type YES means yes, or spells yes, right? So can he just turn himself on and process stuff when he's not? Like, could he have more agency in this world than he does, or shouldn't they have been, the wheels and the reels have been spinning when they got down there? Because that's the thing that flies in the face of exactly what we're talking about, right? If he is really so smart and he's so ahead, shouldn't his processors have been running this whole time?
Well, I think we know that he has been running because he was actively on the drive trying to stop her. So he is a program that is living like on the drive. She said someone is trying to stop me to do it. So that was happening at the same time. So I think
you're right. Then
this
why
is
does
like
she have to turn him on?
Well, I think it's bringing it back to the original one. Like as soon as she connects it, I think like it basically gets the update. You know, she plugged it in and then said like it connected back into this is where it started, but I don't think this is where it ended.
Right. Well, because certainly, I mean, Zola as a human being would have no idea who Natasha was because she wasn't born yet. Clearly, someone is using those things to upload data as much as to download it.
Yeah. So I think he's been running, you know, maybe not continuously, or maybe it was all for dramatic effect too. Like we do see him, you know, being really dramatic about all this stuff. So maybe it's like, shh, guys, shut it all down.
Yeah. It's like a surprise party rules.
Yeah.
I get
but
it.
I also like the fact that
it does make me think like he's flash memory now.
Yeah.
Like he's everywhere.
Yeah. I'm sure there's, you know, I really wish they had sort of brought this into like the Ultron conversation of like, hey, there's already this thing you could like bring over.
Yeah.
But I also think maybe he's just glad to finally tell somebody. You know, this has been this big secret for so long. He's like, oh man, not only do I get to tell somebody, but I get to tell Captain America that the group he's been working for this whole time has been us. Oh man.
Yeah.
Let me at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why. I mean, we know this is an exposition dump from a Doyleist perspective, but I think internally it does make sense that he's calling himself like a living agent.
Right.
You know, like he has needs, and one of his needs is to access and is to peacock, is to be proud of all that they have accomplished.
Yeah.
I do think, you know, especially after reviewing the parade of Zolas in comic history, this is the coolest one.
Probably, yeah.
Right? I mean, are you satisfied as a reader of the comics understanding where he's come from? Or were you satisfied with the implementation of Zola on screen?
I was so pleased that they brought it into the sort of working metaphor of Captain America the Winter Soldier, like this way. They did. If he had walked out as a robot with this green screen on his chest, I was like, ooh, that breaks it. That goes against all the sort of even the hyper fighting we've been seeing has all just been bullets and guns and leave around. Once you introduce a robot android body with a face in it, the game changes. And I think so they were smart to put him like on a screen this way. So as soon as that screen came on, I figured out what they were doing and I was so happy. I was like, oh, they're actually doing the thing. They're doing that. So yeah, I think it works in this. I wish there had been more. Like I wish he had, you know, we had seen him.
Yeah.
That he'd survived or like it brought back at some point. The fact that this is sort of the one and only scene we get of that is kind of a bummer, but at least we get this scene.
And I will say having the like very pixelated, you know, monochrome monitor version of his face, I thought it was all very effective. And it's all very much like, you know, that taking us back to War Games kind of computer era. And I will say, as much as I'm joking about it, on behalf of Mr. Cabasco, who cannot be with us right now because his priorities are correct, he's trying to get into Star Wars Celebration. I don't think wow, this seems an awful lot like a Bond villain level exposition is coincidental. I think that following what Rob has said, that this movie is constantly paying homage to the spy thrillers and the action movies of the 70s and 80s and 90s. That Bond movies fall very much in that. And what he is doing is a very well-known trope of Bond movies of, I am sure you're about to die. So as you said, I'm going to peacock and explain my whole plan.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. We only get a little bit of the plan. And in the minutes we see, we just going to go all the way back to World War II. And then we end on Natasha asking like, how were you able to do this? They would stop you. And he says, accidents will happen. And they show a picture of Stark. What? What happened to Tony's dad? Why? How is this connected? I'm sure this won't cause a major problem in a future film. I mean, this is just,
surely
just
not.
Exposition, right?
It's just exposition. I think it's interesting just how far ahead we get to be from Natasha, right? Going back to that opening question of like, wouldn't she know Peggy? Well, she doesn't even know what we know about where they are right now, right? When she ends on S.H.I.E.L.D. would have stopped you. Surely there haven't been any clues to Natasha that something is wrong in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. Yeah, she's assuming it was just normal, world empire bureaucracy nonsense. It turns out, no.
Yeah.
There were heads growing.
Yeah. That's where we are. So we've got a little bit more of this, and then something big, big falls on our heads. And so we're excited about that.
That does though raise a question for me. Is the idea that Hydra killed Tony Stark's parents, is that something the MCU came up with, or is that something that already existed in Marvel?
No, this is pretty much an MCU thing.
Okay. Then my next question then being, because I just don't remember the time, do you think they put that detail in here already thinking about Civil War becoming a movie, or that they were going to use it in some movie as a way to build tension between Tony versus Steve, Bucky, or just that they put it in there because it's relevant to this, and then later when the Russo brothers are writing Civil War, they're like, oh yeah, you remember that seed that was dropped? Let's take that and use that as the basis for a really good conflict between Steve, Bucky, and Tony.
Yeah, I like to think that they can see around those particular corners, and that was in fact placed, because that's not a thing you just casually drop into this movie as any sort of Easter egg and then expect not to use it later. That feels way too intentional. And I was trying to remember,
had there been any establishment that Tony's parents had died tragically in some kind of terror? I mean, we knew they were dead. We knew he was an orphan, but I don't think it had ever been established that they had died in this, like in like a car accident.
No, just that they were gone.
But listeners, if I'm wrong,
that's where we are. I mean, I don't think this was not the meatiest of meaty minutes. It was Marvel monologuing, and now hopefully we'll get back to work.
That's right, because I mean, I'm sure nothing bad is on the way. I mean, just three old pals having a conversation.
Certainly not a Werner von Braun reference.
That's right. Maybe they'll go outside, have a cat. Yep. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging in to this quickie right in the middle, right before we get back to the real work of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and attention. Don't forget, you can find out all the ways you can connect with us and support the show at marvelmovieminute.com. On behalf of Matthew Fox and Kyle Olsen and Rob Cabasco, who hopefully gets into Star Wars Celebration this year, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll be back next week on Marvel Movie Minute.
Enough said.
Call him a Nazi, he won't even frown. Nazi schmazi, says Werner von Braun.
You too may be a big hero once you've learned to count backwards to 0. In German or English, I know how to count down. And I'm learning Chinese, says Werner von Braun.